Will your child always need the same support they need today? Will autism look the same at 16 as it does at 6? The honest answer surprises most parents, and it's not what you've been told on either side of the internet. Tom, now 6, sits quietly lining up his toy cars in a perfect row, just like he did at age 2. Sarah watches, remembering how different and how similar he seems from that toddler. Does any of this ever change? She wonders. It's one of the most common questions parents ask after a diagnosis. Does autism change over time? The honest answer is yes and no, and it depends, which sounds unsatisfying until you understand what's actually shifting and what stays the same. Let's start with what doesn't change. Autism is a lifelong neurological difference, part of how a person's brain is wired from birth. It isn't an illness that appears and disappears. A person doesn't stop being autistic as they grow older. But here's what genuinely does change, and change a lot. How autism shows up day to day, which skills a person has built, how much support they need in specific areas, and how comfortable they feel navigating the world around them. Michael once asked Tom's therapist directly, "Will Tom always need this much help?" Dr. Reyes answered carefully, "I can't predict exactly where Tom will be at 16, but I can tell you his support needs today are not his support needs forever." Researchers actually have a name for this: developmental trajectory. It means autism isn't a single fixed point, it's a path. And that path looks different for every single child, depending on their strengths, their environment, and the support they receive. A landmark study following autistic children into adulthood found something remarkable. Many children showed real, measurable improvement in communication, social skills, and adaptive daily living skills over the years, especially with consistent early support and intervention. That doesn't mean autism was cured. It means the brain, especially a young brain, has something scientists call neuroplasticity, the ability to build new connections, new pathways, and new skills throughout childhood and well beyond it too. Sarah remembers when Tom was 2 and barely responded to his name. Now, at 6, he makes eye contact during his favorite cartoons and points to show Sarah things that excite him. That shift didn't happen overnight, but it happened. Here's an important nuance researchers stress constantly. A child getting better at communicating doesn't mean they've become less autistic. It means their skills have grown. The autism is still there. The tools they have to navigate it have simply expanded. Think of it like learning a new language while still speaking your native one. Tom's native language is still autism, the way his brain naturally processes sound, light, and social information, but he's building fluency in new skills alongside it. Now here's a term that gets talked about a lot, and often misunderstood: outgrowing autism. Some children, particularly those once labeled level 1, may no longer meet full diagnostic criteria by adulthood in certain studies, but that finding is more complicated than headlines suggest. Researchers call this optimal outcome, and it's been studied by scientists like Dr. Deborah Fine at the University of Connecticut. Her work found a small group of children who, with early intensive support, no longer showed autism traits on formal testing later in life. But even Dr. Fine's own research is careful here. These children often still showed subtle differences in attention, anxiety, or social processing, even without meeting the full clinical criteria anymore. The wiring doesn't fully disappear, it just becomes less visible. So no, this isn't a cure story, and it's important we don't sell it as one. It's a story about how early, consistent, loving support can genuinely shift a trajectory, sometimes dramatically, even if the underlying difference never fully vanishes. Now let's talk about the flip side, because change isn't always in the direction people expect. Some autistic children's needs increase over time too, particularly during major transitions like puberty, new schools, or significant changes in routine and environment. Lily once asked why her friend's autistic brother, who used to talk a lot, became quieter around age 11. Sarah explained gently. Sometimes bodies and brains go through big changes during growing up, and that can affect how comfortable someone feels. Puberty is a great example. Hormonal shifts, sensory changes, and new social expectations can genuinely increase anxiety or communication struggles temporarily, even for a child who seemed to be doing beautifully in earlier elementary years. This is why professionals talk about support needs instead of a fixed permanent label. A person's needs can rise during a hard season, a house move, a lost loved one, a new sibling, and settle back down once stability returns. Tom went through this after his family moved apartments last year. For nearly 2 months, he needed far more support with transitions than before. Then, slowly, as his new routine became familiar, his old confidence quietly came back. That's a pattern many parents notice but rarely hear named out loud. Autism isn't a straight line, getting steadily better or worse. It moves in waves, shaped by stress, growth, environment, and how much support surrounds a child at any given moment. So what actually drives positive change over time? Research consistently points to a few key factors: early identification, consistent therapy like speech and occupational therapy, a supportive home environment, and crucially, acceptance rather than pressure to appear normal. So what actually drives positive change over time? Research consistently points to a few key factors: early identification, consistent therapy like speech and occupational therapy, a supportive home environment, and crucially, acceptance rather than pressure to appear normal. That distinction matters enormously. A child taught to mask every autistic trait to look typical often pays a hidden cost: exhaustion, anxiety, and a fractured sense of self. Real progress looks different: more comfort, more connection, more genuine self-expression. Sarah learned this the hard way. Early on, well-meaning advice pushed her to stop Tom's hand flapping, his happy stimming, entirely. Later, a specialist explained that stimming often helps regulate the nervous system, and eliminating it can increase stress, not reduce it. So instead of erasing traits, Sarah and Michael learned to ask a better question. Is this behavior helping Tom cope, or is it actually distressing him? That single shift changed how they supported him, far more than any rigid rulebook could. Now let's talk about something equally important. Diagnosis itself can shift with more information, especially in younger children. A toddler evaluated at 18 months might present very differently than that same child at age 4, once language and behavior fully emerge. This is why professionals often use terms like provisional diagnosis for very young children. It's not that autism appeared or disappeared. It's that the full picture becomes clearer as a child's brain and behavior continue to develop and reveal more. Ella, Tom's cousin, was initially evaluated as needing substantial support at 3 years old. By 7, with years of speech therapy, her communication had grown so much that her support level in that specific area shifted from substantial to moderate. Her flexibility needs, though, stayed just as significant as before. This is the reality researchers keep emphasizing. Change is rarely uniform across every area. A person can grow tremendously in one domain while needing steady, ongoing support in another. And that's actually a hopeful message, not a discouraging one. It means progress doesn't require change everywhere at once. Real, meaningful growth in even one area, communication, self-regulation, independence, can transform a child's daily quality of life significantly. Now, what about adulthood? Does change stop once childhood ends? Absolutely not. Autistic adults continue developing coping strategies, communication tools, and self-understanding well into their 30s, 40s, and beyond, often at a pace shaped by their own unique life experiences. Many autistic adults describe learning later in life to advocate for their own sensory needs, to find careers that fit their strengths, and to build friendships on their own terms. That growth simply looks different than a childhood therapy chart. Dr. Reyes told Sarah something she still thinks about often. Growth for an autistic person doesn't always look like becoming more typical. Sometimes it looks like becoming more confidently, comfortably themselves, with less shame about who they already are. That reframes the whole question, doesn't it? Instead of asking, will my child's autism go away? A more useful question becomes, will my child gain the skills, support, and self-acceptance to live a full, connected life as they grow? Genetics also plays a role in the why behind autism, and researchers now understand it involves many different genes interacting with each other, and in some cases, environmental factors during early development. That biological foundation doesn't change after birth. But how that foundation expresses itself day to day absolutely can shift with maturity, support, and environment. Think of the underlying wiring as fixed, but the way a person navigates and expresses that wiring as something that keeps evolving. So when a well-meaning relative says he'll grow out of it, here's an honest, kind response. He won't stop being autistic, but with the right support, he'll keep growing skills and confidence, just like every child does in their own way. Michael has started saying something similar to coworkers who ask about Tom. He's not going to become a different kid. He's going to become more himself, with more tools to handle the parts of the world that feel hard right now. This shift in language matters more than people realize. Parents who focus on growth and skill building, rather than waiting for autism to disappear, report lower stress and more genuine connection with their children, according to several parenting research studies. It also protects children from a painful message that who they are right now isn't good enough, that they're a problem waiting to be solved. Growth should feel like expansion, not correction. Support should feel like partnership, not repair. Tom drew a picture last week of himself as a grown-up, still holding his favorite dinosaur toy. Sarah realized something in that moment. Whatever changes come, some core part of who Tom is will likely stay wonderfully, recognizably him. And that's really the heart of the science here. Autism can, and often does, change in how it's expressed, how much support someone needs, and how a person navigates daily life. But the person underneath, their humor, their passions, endures. If you're a parent wondering whether your child's struggles today will look the same in 10 years, the honest, evidence-based answer is probably not exactly the same, and that's genuinely a hopeful thing, even without any promise of a cure. Support your child today with the tools and therapies that help right now. Trust that skills, confidence, and independence can keep growing for years to come. And remember that different tomorrow doesn't mean cured. It means simply continuing to grow. So, can autism change over time? Yes, in expression, in skills, in support needs, in confidence. What doesn't change is the core neurological wiring and a person's fundamental worth, which was never something that needed fixing in the first place. Here's a hopeful truth to carry with you tonight. Growth is possible at every age, for every autistic person, in ways big and small, expected and surprising, as long as support, patience, and acceptance keep showing up around them. Tip 1. Focus on building skills and comfort rather than chasing a fixed outcome, since progress in autism rarely moves in a straight line, and small, steady growth in one area matters just as much as big, visible milestones. Tip 2. Watch for shifts during major transitions, like puberty, new schools, or big life changes, and increase support temporarily, rather than assuming a setback means something has permanently gone wrong for your child.